You're running already? Chris, oops, thank you. On a minute ago. All right. Mr. Superintendent, are you ready? All right. We'll now call to order. Actually, all right. The superintendent's going to do the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I stand. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us today. We hope that you will be with us as we make wise decisions for our school district and make decisions that are always fair to our teachers, to our support staff, but more importantly, based on kids. Lord, thank you for allowing us to come together in our thoughts and come together in our practice in order to create the best experience for our students in our county. We thank you for your time today, and I hope you keep everyone safe as we continue to journey out through this day and can journey out through this week. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now call to order the school board workshop for February 27th. Welcome, the citizens of Clay County. Take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to attend today's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children in Clay County. There will be an opportunity for the public to ask questions at the end of the workshop presentation. Your participation is welcome and appreciated. And I'd like to take a minute and thank everyone for all the thoughtful input we've received. I'm sure I'm not the only board member who's received literally dozens of phone calls and emails. I've even had people stop me in the supermarket, as I'm sure all of you have, to let us know how they feel. I understand that the allocations are a very sensitive topic for our entire community because they affect all of us. Employees, teachers, administrators, parents, students, everybody. We all want to keep these services at our schools. But it's important to remember that it's not always about numbers and dollar signs. There's times when we make decisions that will enhance the overall education of our children and improve the services that we as the district offer to students, even when that comes at a higher cost than the bare minimum required. I appreciate all of you have taken the time to contact us regarding these allocations. As your elected officials, it's our job to represent your interest. Today will be an opportunity for us to hear from the superintendent and staff regarding their proposed allocations for us to discuss and collaborate together. Please be respectful and courteous throughout today's discussion. We're going to do our best to allow time for public comment at the end of the workshop. Unfortunately, this room is in use tonight booked for a prior event, so we have the room from 4 to 6. Now, I'd like to ask the board if they're okay with allowing public comment at today's workshop until we run out of time. I know our policy says that it's questions only, but if the board's okay with cards in 3 minutes, okay, I have consensus. And obviously, I have a stack of cards, and people are here to speak, and you deserve to be heard. So I am going to ask that when the red light blinks to please be respectful that the person behind you wants to have the opportunity, and we'll go until 6 o'clock and try to let everybody get everything that they need to. So at this time, I will now we'll begin the first and only item on our agenda today, and that is Mr. Superintendent. Mr.
Yes,
Davis,
ma'am.
thank you.
Well, thank you so very much, and I'm going to step down for a minute and I'm sorry for the board, I hope everyone can hear me, for my back to be to you when I speak to staff, caregivers, and community members. Let me say first and foremost, thank you for two things. Thank you for being here today. I really, as superintendent, respect the fact that you have this great of care for the positions that are in your school. Whether you're here to advocate for students, whether you're here to advocate for your staff, whether you're here to advocate for your children, we all know that it's hard for your time to come here and really speak and take the courageous step to talk about the great things that you're doing. As superintendent, I want you to know that decisions are never easy. And for my part, my job as superintendent is to look at every facet of this organization and determine what we can do in order to lift instruction in our culture within the entire school system. And as you know, please know that these decisions are some decisions that I will make as superintendent are going to be unpopular. Some decisions that I make you're going to give me a high five when you see me in the grocery store, and some decisions you're going to be indifferent about in reference to being neutral. But know this: for the last 2 weeks, when creating the staff allocation model, it's been very difficult for me. As a leader, as much as my job is to make sound decisions moving forward, I am empathetic to everything that we do and everything that I've created. I work continuously to problem solve with my staff, to problem solve with our administrative staff, with principals and leaders, and also side by side having some conversations with Mrs. Paiva and Ms. Dixon as well, in order to educate and discuss the steps that we've taken in order to create a fiscally responsible organization. And as I said, please know that in my presentation today, there may be some things that are unpopular. But know that I'm coming from a place that I will always be fair to teachers and always work side by side to hear your voice. But I'm coming to a place that I have to make decisions based on every single day to our classrooms, to our teachers. And not that everyone in this room in some way, shape, or form doesn't impact our students. Know this, that I care, I understand, and this is my recommendation to get us back on track financially, in which I'll go through today. So this time I'll go back and I will go through my PowerPoint, which talks about multiple facets of the staff allocation plan. But I wanted you to be down here because you wanted to be here in front of you because I'm here with you. I'm side by side and I get it and I understand it. I apologize if I created any angst. That is my job to make certain that I have a stable plan that's going to help us serve our kids and at the same time be financially stable as well. Thank you. Okay, got a new chair, it's a little higher. Usually I've been sitting very low, you can't even see me. But again, so thank you. This is an opportunity for me to talk about my staff allocation model. And as we go through it, I'll go through it and I'll be very explicit about the impact of overall county, elementary, junior high school, and high school. And then I'll talk about rationales of why I've arrived at this model and how it impacts the overall district. So the first one, the objectives today is to talk about the purpose of the staff allocation and for me to really work to define what the staff allocation model is, for me to discuss any financial impact that it has at the district at every level and also as an aggregate, and also for the board to consider the staff allocation recommendations as we move forward for 17-18 school year. When we talk about rationale for the need of staff allocation, ultimately what this does is allow us to have equity in our schools and a standardization about how we proceed with allocations within our school district. I can tell you that historically we haven't had an allocation plan about how schools truly generate funding, and which creates an over-concern about how we spend money within our school district and how we align those resources to our strategic plan. In addition, we talk about, so this plan allows us to not only provide equitable resources, but also allows us to standardize our way of work in moving forward. The allocation plan also allows us to illustrate allocation of resources in school site and really put that side by side actual dollars. And that really allows us to be very strategic in how we spend our money as it aligns to our ultimate goals from our academic and non-academic expectations and goals, which really will become how we spend money and go next and aside and alongside of our strategic plan, which we will develop after our 100-day plan is complete in mid-April. And there's three ways that allocation methods are determined in this staff allocation model. The first model is through a staffing ratio, in the sense of how many students and how many students that you have at your individualized school, and how is that linked to the number of teachers that you will have in order to provide the services that our students need to be successful. And then the second tier is how the weighted student funding is aligned, about not only how we have actual dollars for kids who are, bless you, kids who walk through the door for a basic allocation, but what weighted student funding will need to be allocated, whether a student's in poverty through Title I, whether a student has special needs, or any other considerations that kids generate additional fundings in order to provide the accurate services internally. And the last way we've determined this of what program of school-based add-ons. So what programmatic ads do we need to add on to our schools in reference to determine if there's a program that we want to protect at our school, whether it's a CTE pathway or whether it's a Spanish initiative at Tynes Elementary School, whether it's a school improvement. Do we have a school that's underperforming and they may need additional interventionists? They need to have smaller classrooms. They may need to have a literacy coach. And then the final one is class size. Are we making certain that an add-on needs to take place if we have a class that we're not meeting class size within a certain school? So these are the three ways that we determine to have a common structure for our staff allocation within our school district. And I will tell you this, Clay's never had that. So we really have overstaffed and understaffed in so many schools, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And the last one is to really create a culture of responsibility, accountability, and financial stability. This is what we have to move to in order for us to really determine the needs of our schools, align the needs based on our accountability to our strategic plan, and figure out how we can become fiscally responsible within our school district as we continue to fight for to be at that 3% reserve in the last 4 school years. And it is my role as the leader or superintendent to figure out in the problem solving decision make how I can bring a model in place which is a national norm as relates to generating positions at each one of our schools. So when we talk about Elevate Clay, the biggest thing is the last target is why I highlighted it, is one of the goals that we wanted to really look at. So this is something that someone said, Ashton got a lot of plates spinning. It is my job to understand what plates are spinning and what plates need to stop and what plates need to move forward. And the biggest thing on number 6 is we talk about looking at the effective management of the entire organization and what can we do to make sure we have efficient and effective learning environments. And the way we do that is to look at every facet, and the big thing is funding. And as funding, as you know, 86%, I believe, of our finances are built on employees and built on schools. So we've got to fit. We don't have a lot of wiggle room when we talk about what do we look at to make adjustments and how do we generate money at our schools. And this is a formula that allows us to do so. And it has been a concentration within Elevate Clay objectives. This next slide I want you to look at, this is talk about traditional methods of budgeting. I would say that as I got here, the biggest thing I found out is that we've had some traditional measures of how we fund schools. And the first measure is we go, hey, here's a lump sum of money at your school. So here you give it to a principal where they get X amount of dollars. The principal then goes and determines the number of staff they need, and then they start to plan moving forward of what the actual expectations they are planning for, strategic planning of what they need to do for kids. I will tell you, this is the old way of budgeting, and it doesn't allow us to have the thought process initially as we look at our strategic planning. This is pretty much what we've done in the last couple of years in Clay County. We've had a cut and paste approach, which our budgets are based on history. That means that historically, if I've had 25 positions in the last 3 years, I've cut and pasted, and we've always have 25 positions moving forward. I've met with every principal in this organization that talk about staffing. Principals have told me openly and said that they have allocations in their schools that they didn't need to teach kids. They were already in class size, they had extra positions. So they started to create positions. They started to have a lab coach. They started to have a coach that wasn't sponsored by or initiated by the district. They had a science lab and a technology teacher. They started offering positions that were not A, sponsored by the district, and B, it wasn't a formal equitable allocation allocation that was put across the board. So here we have principals being transparent by saying, yes, we've been given a pot of money and allowed to do so, but it really hasn't merged in the decision-making process about the amount of money that we've actually generated. You have to understand, a staff and allocation model really allows schools to receive funding and revenues for what they actually generate. So if you have 100 students at a school, you generate the dollars for 100 students. However, in so many cases where we've had 100 students, we've either given money to a school for 125 students, or we've even given money to that school for 75 students. This model has exposed, especially in junior high, which is middle school, where our kids are trying to find out who they are emotionally, socially, academically, that we have somewhat underfunded our junior high schools. And to me, that's problematic, because that's a key indicator where kids mentally and sometimes physically drop out, and we've got to do a better job providing the resources they need to be successful. But all this to go back to say is that if you look at the second part of the strategic planning, you have to have a plan. How do schools generate funding? And that plan then allows you, and this staff allocation allows you to, this model allows you to identify that students generate funding based on the state class size average, in the sense that K3, it's established by 18 per classroom, and in 4-6 it's established by 22, and then 4-8 is 22, and then in 9-12 is 25. And that is a way that you can generate the planning process about how we get funding from basic allocations to support staff, to administrators, to students with disabilities, through custodial staff, and then you get a chance to identify how many staff members you need in order to provide adequate services to our schools so our kids can be successful. And then you give the dollar amount in order for them to move forward, and they can work within their master schedule, through master schedule guidelines, through every section to determine what we actually need in order to move forward. And these are the plans. We have got to get away from traditional budgeting and then move forward to our strategic budgeting. And this is what this allocation plan does. If you look at the school-based budgeting process, this chart really talks about how you arrive somewhat of I just explained. In the sense, if you read it from left to right, you'll see the biggest thing to do is to conduct an analysis of a historical trend of weighted FTE, and really look at our programmatic needs. And then once we look at historical trends of our enrollment and weighted FTE, then we can really define the formulas the way schools generate money. And then the next step would be to develop the instructional and operational strategies, which allows you to look at, do they need class size add-ons, do we need programmatic ads, and do we need school improvement ads? And then ultimately you get to the next phase 4, which you have equitable resources in every one of our schools. You don't have you have funding going in so many different directions in positions that are in our schools that are not really aligned to our strategic plan. And right now, to be very honest with everyone, that's what we currently have in Clay. We have a number of positions in outlooks that don't really align to our strategic plan. And then we'll never identify what's working, what's not, and what we can do differently. And ultimately, we have to then create and identify and prioritize our ultimate investments. Are our investments working? Have they been effective? If not, we need to selectively abandon, or we need to revisit, or we need to make adjustments in order to be successful in our schools for our kids, which comes to a part where you align budgeted resources for our schools in a clever, systematic way. The next slide talks about our comparison to our budget allocations. Historically in Clay, there's been no formula to generate fundings for a school. There's been unpredictable and reactive to positions of what we add and how they generate. There's been subjectivity about allocations in our schools, in the sense that if you were a principal and you were savvy enough to come to the table and negotiate positions, you obtain and receive those positions. At the same time, if you were to a point where you can prove and defend that you needed a position, you got that position as well. And I hate to say it, if you knew someone and you were in an inner circle, you may have gotten that position as well. And I'd be honest with you, I've had those conversations and those have taken place. That's not the business model that I want to be a part of. I have to be calculated. I owe it to every constituent. I owe it to this board, and more importantly, I owe it to kids. And then we had insufficient resources in all of our schools. It's not okay that we don't have media in every elementary school in our school district. It's not okay that we don't have art in every elementary school. It's not okay that we don't have performing music in every one of our elementary schools. That's not okay. I'm telling you that. It's not okay as we seek to develop the whole child. At the same time, the funding sources didn't align to the strategic plan. I've in my 14 weeks, I've had very little interactions about individuals that tell me how funding sources and implementations of programs and curriculi align to our strategic plan moving forward. And that's some of the reason that we have dropped from 13th to 20th, because we have stuff growing legs all over the place, and it's never in the same realm or same in the room that we can have discussion to put our finger on to figure if it works. The new plan allows that formula to be very systematic about how we generate money. It also gives you a project-based a base for projected revenues and expenditures at a school. It allows us to have equitable resources across the board in our elementary, junior, and senior high schools. It uses data to drive staffing needs in our schools. And I'm not saying everything's based on data, but you got to have a plan moving forward. And then it aligns positions and puts in controls for funding. So there's avenues to generate 3 avenues through class size, school improvement, and programmatic ads in order to help our students. And it eliminates waste and also duplication within our school system. As you can see historically, this slide talks about our reserve. And we have board policy, I believe, that says that we must be at 3%. State statute, sorry, and we should have policy. But it gets to a point where we have struggled financially over the years. And my goal as superintendent is for us to be fiscally responsible and to move it to 4.5%. You may say, Addison, that's a lofty goal. That's a major goal. The answer is yes. And the only way we do that is we have to look at every dimension in this organization in order to create this. And we get to a point where that may be a high number, but it's a part. If you look at 2012, that number is 4.23 is kind of where we were. And as you look at it, we started to make significant increases in 2016. And I believe the 2016 number is potentially greater than the 2.05 that we currently have now. So ultimately, it's just a measure for us to look, and it's a goal for me to have within this organization. The next one is a comparative analysis, and the biggest thing you want to look at is these are some of the functions that we look at as relates to the percentage of money that we have within our school district. If you look at the top row, I'll give you an example. It says Clay. It gives us like districts, and only like districts as relates to enrollment. And this looks at, I unpacked a number of functions for you to look at enrollment, from media to PD to school administration, all the way to instruction. And you can see through this chart, as it looks and compares ourselves to the other 6, you're able to compare it to the other 6 districts of what percentage of our budget is aligned to these certain functions. At the same time, it allows us to look at the state comparison, and then looks at Clay's rank. And I would tell you, if you look at, I'll give you an example. If you look at custodial services, we are underfunded in custodial services, and as it compares to the other 6. If you look at maintenance, we are underfunded as relates to maintenance. We are not looking at the aesthetics of our facilities, looking at making sure that we have the nicest facilities, our classrooms are clean, we have the resources that need to be successful, and also people, we are below. In the same thing, we're looking at technology. We are underfunded in the area of technology. However, there are 2 areas that I believe, and we look at data, and I'm just saying this through data, not talking about body of work, that we are overfunding. One is in instructional media, and the other one is in instructional. And let me give you to a point where we look at instructional. We are a member told me the other day, I want all of my money to go instruction. That is absolutely right. But you have to have a balance in what we do. And our balance has to be multifaceted. We can't just pour money into instruction with no intentionality, no purpose. And even though this says that we are 66% of our budget is in instruction, we're well over the state average, and compared to the other like school districts, and the national average is spending 65 cents to the dollar, which we're overfunding that. We talk about instruction in so many different ways. In a perfect world, this would be awesome, because this would really make sense that everything goes to the instructional process. However, we cannot compromise other facets of the organization. And I'm talking about technology, tiered classroom support, curriculi, HR retention and retaining strategies. We have to look for them to employ highly qualified personnel. This is not all about people. This is about curriculums. This is about instructional frameworks. This is about curriculum maps. This is about assessments. This is about retention of people, retention strategies. And we've got to figure out what the balance is within each of these domains to be most successful. Dr. Kemp, anything that you want to talk about from the balance perspective?
Yes, sir, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, push that button, Dr. Kemp.
Yes, sir, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm in my 19th day, and excited about the opportunity to serve in Clay and working with each of you to help elevate Clay to make a more reliable and efficient organization. In order for us to become more reliable and efficient, it really takes a strategic effort on the board and superintendent's part to ensure that there's a balance between instruction, operations, and support. It really is, if you take our organization, it really is a three-legged stool. I mean, you have instruction, you have operations, and you have support. One without the other really will not stand, and we can't run as efficiently as we'd like to. As for operations, the vision for me for operations is that everything we do at the central office as we work to elevate Clay, whether we're talking about curriculum, HR, business affairs, and operations, we're talking about maintenance, facilities, custodial service, our safety security efforts, transportation, food services, technology. Everything we do is to support children in classrooms. Everything we're working to do is to impact student achievement at where it matters most, and that is, to me, in that classroom level. So, it really should never be, I've heard a lot in my first 19 days of us versus them, or central office versus school-based accounts. It's really not that for me. It shouldn't be about that. It's our job as a board and senior cabinet to try to provide the highest support to our schools. So with the leadership that we have here, I'm convinced that we can do that. I will say this to you, 19 days in, that the state of Florida has that funding formula for a reason. It exists for a reason, and it exists for districts to be able to plan to operate efficiently, reliably, and effectively. In all the districts I've served, it's always been known, and it's kind of been a non-negotiable. It has to be, because when it's ignored or treated as optional, the organization just can't achieve that balance between those three legs I just mentioned. As a former teacher, principal, and a lifelong educator, I am absolutely in agreement with you 100% that all of our support and everything we do should go into our classrooms. However, I do want to remind everyone that support does not always mean more people assigned to schools. The formula is set for a reason, and to allow that, to allow us to provide the best support. For example, 19 days in, I can tell you, Clay County students, teachers, our support personnel, and administrators deserve the safest and securest environments that are with appropriate surveillance and access controls at every school. That they deserve the cleanest classrooms, hallways, bathrooms, grounds. They deserve facilities that receive proactive attention instead of reactive attention. I've talked to principals about their needs and what they need and how long it takes to get things done. That's painting, repair, our image, the brand, how you feel when you walk into the culture of a school matters. We deserve to have schools without portables. 980 something with 740 more than 20 years old. How do we get there? We get there, that's the direct result of a lack of balance, just kind of over time. Teachers deserve to be equipped and armed with the curricular tools as well as the curriculum instructional technology tools that they need to help prepare our kids. They deserve an infrastructure that's truly a bridge and not a barrier that keeps our kids from learning. And to be honest with you, they need relevant next generation technology in every classroom. A drop-down projector, on a boom with a pull-down white screen is not an enhanced classroom. So they also deserve the highest level of food nutrition. If you think about the best, most efficient transportation services, they deserve that. They deserve to have an organization that operates with balance so all employees are appreciated for continued loyalty to the organization and don't have to work. No one should have to work for 7 to 8 years without a step, increase, or adjustment. So, with that said, all of these things that I mentioned tonight, even as a lifelong educator, all of these things I mentioned are dollars to the classroom. And all is needed, all is expected of us as leaders, you as a board, the superintendent, and us as a team. All this community expects us to provide those things moving forward. I want to be a responsive organization that we can embrace and move forward with any challenge. but we can't do that if there's not balance. So there has to be the balance between instruction, operation, and support. Even with what is proposed this evening, I will tell you, we are far from it. But it's a step in the right direction as we look to elevate Clay to bring the right balance in, so we can do the right things for students and our employees. So I really look forward to working with you and look forward to helping in the process to elevate Clay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kemp. And I would say this is me over the last 2 weeks. I mean, we get to a point where 2 weeks ago I had all kind of hair, and the last week trying to pull it out, and then that's me today. So we get to a point where, I said at the beginning, it's been stressful. It's never easy, and the decisions are somewhat difficult. But, I wish I had the hair again back 2 weeks ago. But I want to let you know that it keeps me up at night because it's hard to make decisions that put us in a systematic approach that we haven't had in the past. So the staff allocation development, this has been created and worked through principals, school-based staff. When we talk about cabinet members, senior staff members, assistant superintendents of business affairs, and in collaboration with like districts and the former CFO of Orange County. And I say like district, multiple districts we looked at and had conversation about their staff allocation plan and really made that to fit what we're trying to accomplish here in Clay County. And then also participation with Ms. Paiva in a cabinet meeting to discuss what principals asked back after they went to problem solve with their master schedules. And that was a great opportunity for us and for me in the cabinet because Ms. Paiva brought a different reflection that we didn't have and historical knowledge we didn't have and really brought value to the meeting that we greatly appreciated. So we will continue those conversations in order to make certain that we are on one team and not teams in isolations working against each other, which I hope to continue to create. Now, as it relates to this elementary allocation plan, as I said earlier, the allocations were created from administrative staff, basic teachers, resource options, clerical, school counselors, student services, and ESE, students with disabilities. And this plan really allows us to look at a calculated approach about how you generate funding based on every scale, not just a teacher scale. But its basic teachers are based on the class size by the state, which is 18, and then also from 4 to 6 with 22 at their classroom as well. And from the basic side, every school has a classroom assistant. Every school elementary has an ISS assistant. And every school has a media tech and elementary as prior allocated from 16-17 school year. And let me tell you, my original thought was to convert that position to a classroom assistant where we can really help and teachers, help teachers support students with small group instruction through literacy and through mathematics. But when I pulled the data and we have 450 books that were checked out in elementary, I do agree that not only media specialists are working in the resource schedule to see multiple classes of kids, that the media techs were really doing some great work with really looking at inventory, helping that inventory, help selections of books, and making sure that we had the supports we need in our schools. So those were put back instead of a generic classroom assistant. Resources, I believe that every elementary school should have art, media, PE, and music. This is all about developing the whole child. We had so many schools that we have 2 schools that didn't have art. We had 9 schools that didn't have music. And in order for us to create true core sequences, pathways in junior high school, feeder patterns in high schools as well, and to have robust and highly competitive music classes and ensembles and band classes, we really got to have kids to be able to be exposed to these types of resources in our elementary schools, and it matters. For 7 of our schools not to have a media specialist, that brings angst to me because that's the foundation of literacy. So I believe it's most important that we have these resources in our schools and have a standardized opportunity for us to continue to grow every expectations within our schools for our kids to continue to move forward. And then the resource, you generate a 5th one by a certain threshold between 900 and 1,299 students, and then you get another resource that's
added on after 1,300 FTEs. And the same thing with clerical and school counselors. There's also a weighted approach about how do you generate positions within our schools. If you look at the students with disabilities, historically we've had classes that I've seen classes that range between 3, 4, and 5 kids in a class, and why that is a great opportunity for us to activate learning in the classroom. It just doesn't allow us to be fiscally responsible by not setting a threshold between 8 and 10 students in the classroom with supports. This is basic teachers with additional supports in there that they generate based on medical need or needs with disabilities. And I think every teacher in this county would love to have 9, 8, 10 kids in their classroom. We just can't afford it. Especially with our current reserves. So adjustments in elementary, we have basic allocation that's generated based on class size, as I spoke before. ESE is in self-contained classrooms from 8 to 10, and this is self-contained. This is not severe low-incident classes, which will continuously remain at a lower level. And then we have media specialists will be in all schools, as we had 7 did not. And then I got it mixed up with the resources. We had 2 schools without music and 9 without art, and this allows us to put those 4 resources in every one of our classes, along with the standardization of administrators. One thing you'll see in the allocation is that we had in elementary schools, we had teachers that were half administrators and half teachers. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how you do that. So what part of the day is that individual a supervisor, and what part of that day of that individual not a supervisor? So can you only, for me, I removed that and I just made it whole, because is there only, I don't know, is there only certain hours you can speak to that person about the evaluation process, or is that person a colleague, or is that person an administrator? I think that's unfair to teachers, and it's unfair to that individual in that role. So we made those whole. When we look at overall, this is a decline of 27 teachers in elementary. This is after principals have somewhat built their master schedules and really defended what they could do and could not do based on class size. So please know that this has been vetted by leaders, and leaders have provided insight of what they can handle, what they can do in order to make sure class size is in compliance, and also to protect our school improvement processes and programs. This is also looking at ESE instructional staff, and this is because the numbers just don't generate it. I can't afford to have 3 kids in a class. I think that's fiscally irresponsible. And then we have kids that are moving from elementary to junior high school, which means as you have movement, this allocation may move from elementary to secondary, but it's just identified here in this label, and it goes across. So ultimately, looking at we come to a point. I just want to put this data out here that you have 38 positions that were eliminated based on staff allocation after the programmatic ads, class size ads, and school improvement ads. Next is junior high school. Same mentality. It's all based on FTE. This says 23. It should be 22. And it gets to a point where you generate the same mentality for clerical school counselors here. No major differences here other than based on class size and putting parameters based on FTE, so that you see the adjustments as related to junior high school. Major changes in junior high school is basic allocation generated by class size. Here is for 22 per class. ESE is from 10 to 12. It's self-contained classrooms. Media Tech, it says change to classroom assistants. That has been, this is incorrect. So if we have the wrong PowerPoint up, that has been removed, and it should say removed all the way across, and it is noted in our allocation plans, and then it just goes to a standardization, how we have a standardization in our administrative approach. And this not to neglect the fact that hard work of the 6 individuals that do at our Media Tech, but it's totally different because they have 35,000 books that have been checked out. Totally different because a media specialist, even in junior high school, is not the same as a media specialist in elementary school. The work may be the same, but the media specialists in elementary school, they're on cycled rotations. So they are seeing kids on a constant basis and constituents through their resource schedule. And in junior high school, that is not the case. They're not on a resource schedule, even though they do service classrooms. They do go to classrooms. Classrooms go to them. I believe that they can handle the work related to the Media Tech. As relates to junior high school, as you can see, the junior high school is ultimately will be added 10 instructional positions. They will ultimately, at the end of the day, after looking at all the adds and deletes, they will come out with 2.9 positions that will be added overall and be put in 200. And the plan generates $217,000 in revenue for junior high school. As you look at high school, somewhat the same platform as junior high school. This is it goes from the class size goes from 22 to 25. And it goes to a part where we allocate basic teachers, one for 25 students, a media specialist, and an athletic director as relates to high school. This stays the same. Stays the same as relates to students with disabilities, as it goes from 10 to minimum of 10 students that generate, and then it gives you the number of school counselors as well. Major changes in high school. Basic allocation is from grades 9 to 12, 1 to 25 students. ESE allocation is from 10 to 12. And media specialists, the media specialist, moves the media specialist from high schools to the 6 elementary schools that we have. And there's a way that we will do that through volunteerism first. Those are people who want to volunteer to be moved, and then we'll look at the process as outlined in our contract. I know that this is where, and I say this, is we have 6 elementary schools with 2 media specialists, and why they do great work in our schools. I do believe that that we have to make sure it's a priority in our elementary schools. This also changes from generating the academy coaches to it generates 1 per school, and we are seeking to work to change the job title from academy coach to college and career coach, which focus on multifaceted. It's not only the academies, but helping and assisting with graduation trackers and helping kids be on the right track to become college, career, and life ready, and ultimately to be successful. This will relieve guidance counselors to do what they train to do, is really work with kids in our classrooms and work with our kids in the visiting class to help them with so many different facets of becoming socially emotional intake to be successful. And then administrative is the same of the process of how they generate it, about how they generate staff allocation models. Well, rationale, one of the biggest things is our media. I was able to speak with media specialists in January, and I openly told them that we will have no changes in our allocations. And I'm sorry if individuals took that as if there were going to be no changes ultimately when their current structures are at their schools. I openly apologize if we didn't dive explicitly in what that meant, but I was trying to say at aggregate we were protecting those positions in the school district because I see the value and understand the value, and knew that elementaries didn't really offer it in all of our 26 elementary schools. The rationale to move is like I said, is that we can look at the number of books that are checked out. We can look at the number of in elementary. We need some assistance in elementary, and why I would love to continue to keep the current makeup in secondary, to have 6 of our secondary have 2, but we have one junior high school that's a 7-12 that only has 1 in Keystone. So if you look at the other surrounding counties, we looked at 14 districts in the state of Florida, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do all 67. It's a lot. If you look at the norm is having 1 media specialist, and in some occasions we have schools that are sharing media specialists in high schools, and versus just having 1 totally allocated. And if you look at Miami-Dade, and I know this is not Miami-Dade, I'm just giving you data to show you how I arrived at this decision. They have it's a discretionary of a leader whether or not they have media or they even identify a tech. So if we say that literacy is our foundation, we have to commit to making sure that every elementary has a media specialist within their school, and right now we don't have that plan, but the new staff allocation plan allows us to have that. And this is the financial makeup and let me tell you, this right here, when you look at instructional position, this is because we went to wall-to-wall academies. And when you had wall-to-wall academies, you had a cohort kids. So you had classes that were at 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, and class size is at 25. Wall Academies required that you had protected a group of cohorts. So if me and the board were taking aerospace, we had to follow the core classrooms to go aerospace, regardless if there's just 6 of us. And I can tell you where that is a beautiful model if we were not financially strapped. But we are in a situation where we can't afford that, and my position is to move back to anchor academies and continue all of our pathways, and that alleviates positions within the county. Overall impact, this is to look at it, it's $3.1 million. The staff allocation. I will tell you the original staff allocation plan 2 weeks ago, it was at $5.5 million. That means that $5.5 million was cut after you did the basic allocation. We were able, through conversations with Ms. Paiva, conversation with principals, conversations through cabinet, conversations through to looking at master schedules, we were able to come back and defend what programmatic school improvement and class-side ads need to go back in order to continue to offer the same services within our schools, and this is where we arrive. So the question will be, what's going to happen with 42 instructional positions? Please know that every year we have 252. Historically, we've had 250 positions that are open in our school and we hire. And last year was 252. And as we look at, we hire between 230 and 250 teachers every single year. And when I talk to you tonight, and I'm not talking about, when we talk about people, there will be jobs for everyone within this organization. It just may not be at the current school that they continue to service, which means we understand it's change, it's uncomfortable. However, my job is to protect people and teachers as well, but I also have to make sure we have a model in place. So if we look at instructionally, we have 88 retirements, non-reappoints, 155 resignations, and so we have plenty of positions for the 42 teachers within the school district. The same way as it goes to non-instructional staff members. While we may be cutting in non-instructional staff, they're just the allocation may be cut at their current school, but through attrition and through voluntary transfers, there may be greater opportunity for them to stay at their schools. As we hire 278 individuals in multiple classifications. All this to say is that jobs will be there for our current employees. I can tell you that. Jobs will be there. And the way we determine placement, this is not a RIF in any way, shape, or form. This is a surplus. It's through natural attrition. It's also through voluntarily transfer. Then we go look at contract status from PSC versus annual contract. Then if there's a tie through annual contract, we go to the valuation score. And then after that, we go to continuous employment with the school district. And Ms. Paiva, this is correct language, correct?
It is correct.
Thank you, ma'am. So as we look at it, we want to make sure that this is not a RIF in any way, shape, or form, but we have opportunities within the school district to protect all. So the question is, Mr. Davis, what are you going to do with the $3 million? Openly, I'm going to tell you, that's a great question. We understand that the board previously approved a new charter school. That is $2.5 million going to a new charter school that takes FTE out currently of our school district and goes. So I'm just going to tell you that's two. Sorry, it says 5 million. It's 2 point. Miss Dr. Legecko, excuse me, through the chair. 5 million or 2.5?
We're all told it was 5.
$2.5 million for the current for next year.
Current. So right now the school district. I'm sorry, we have they didn't have an updated PowerPoint. Right now, the school district gives $5.8 million to charter schools, to the current charter schools we have. The new charter schools is going to add $2.5 million into our budget. So ultimately, we're around $8 million that comes out of Clay County schools and goes to charter schools. Now, I'm all about choice and competing about opportunities for our kids, but where's that $2.5 million going to come from? Okay. We're already financial strapped. On top of it, we look at performance. Last year we put $1.2 million plus another $800,000. Where are we going to find money to incentivize teachers? Because that's what we should continue to make them feel value. On top of that, support staff as well. We have to find money. If we look at funding for resources for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, we have teachers that are starving for supplement materials in our schools. We have so many different curriculums out there that we're teaching greatly at our proficiency level, and we have a curriculum that some are using, some are not. But if you look at our learning gains as a school district, they're poor, especially if you look at elementary and junior high school and high school, well, all of them. So it's because we do not have tier 2 and tier 3 resources that we have to have. Our plan moving forward is to have iReady in our schools to help our teachers, which is differentiated instruction opportunity for our kids to have blended learning, which allows them to have a scaffold approach to be successful, and it meets them where they are intellectually and takes them to be grade level and beyond. The same thing with the Chi 3000, the same thing with the LLI, the same thing with K2 phonics programs. We have to have an approach that says that give the teachers the tools that they need in order to be successful. And the question is, where is that money coming from? Because it's not an adoption process. And we have 6,300 level 1 and level 2 readers in Clay County in secondary schools. In secondary schools only. And I give you an example. We have one junior high school where 42% of their students are level 1 and level 2 readers. And we have one reading teacher for those students. We are not being fiscally responsible. This allocation plan allows us to do it, to look at programmatic ads and really service our kids from level 1 and level 2 to be most successful, at the same time having a high level of enrichment for all of our kids. Also to improve fund balance. We currently have $8 million in our fund balance, and I put $2 million. That number's probably $2.5 or $2.6 million that it needs to get to a fund balance to increase it to $4 million. If we look at our technology, we have $1.5 million that's got to go to technology in reference to the digital classroom. I believe that we spent around $1 million last year, and we got to spend another $1,500, and we're still nowhere near the infrastructure we need in order to help assistants, to give a real true digital classroom with interactive clickers, with Chromebooks to all of our students, with an interactive board, with a response system to allow our classroom to go to the 21st century. And then we look at what we have to do from the Clay Connection Teacher Institute. For summer, we want to do intense training with teachers, and then the same thing with leaders, and then looking at raises for all of our staff members in order to be successful. This is a lot of money. We've got to figure out where is it coming from. The $3 million is not even in any way, shape, or form going to put a dent into these initiatives that we want to put in order to move our system. Ultimately, that's my presentation. I'm sorry for some of the slides that they may have that were not aligned to the actual numbers, but I was able to speak to those numbers. All this to say is that it's never easy. People thought that they would never, and this was what we talk about, they would never get rid of their home phones. Okay, they never change. They never get rid of their home phones. So many people have changed because they use their mobile phone. So change is not always easy. Change is somewhat uncomfortable, but it is my job to present a plan that I believe will continue to provide the resources at our schools and be fiscally responsible to this organization. I thank you for all the emails that you've sent me as well, for being advocates for your children, advocates for your colleagues, and advocates for your schools. I read every one of them. I try to respond. If you respond in the last 24 hours, I apologize. Those will be this evening or tomorrow morning. But I thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
All right, thank you. Board members, this is our opportunity to ask questions. So, Ms. Gilhausen, would you like to start?
Honestly, I think we should hear from the public first.
Let's hear from them.
All right.
Oh,
The thing
before you-
is, we've only got till 6 o'clock, so we may not have time for board discussion. We've got a lot of cards here.
Madam Chairman, may I ask something?
Yes.
Mr. Davis, the presentation you just gave, there were a lot of pages there that I would like to see. I think we've already had some of them, but could
Yes, ma'am.
you, you said there were a couple numbers that you wanted to correct.
I have the right, excuse me, through the
Right.
chair, I mean to cut you off, through the chair, I have the right PowerPoint. It's just the old one got sent for them to upload. So that will become part of the minutes that we will upload and load, and I can send it to you
Yeah,
as well.
I'd love to see that because there were some things on there I hadn't seen before. I know y'all would. Okay.
PowerPoint
Yes,
to each
ma'am.
board
Thank
member.
you.
Absolutely.
I just had one question quickly. There is a number of pages on the back of this allocation package that we are given today that are different than the one we were given on Tuesday, that are from the district office, but they are teachers and things, and you didn't speak to that at all on how those decisions were made. And I had several phone calls from employees on those specific ads, and I wasn't, I wasn't.
So,
I didn't have anything to go to.
yeah, if there's anything explicitly that we can have conversation about, you can ask me here, or I can answer individually. What we tried to do with staff is to look at the district level to see if we were overstaffed or understaffed in certain areas, and try to figure out if we can divvy up certain responsibilities, and if we could not, do we need to create a certain responsibility in order for us to be successful.
So this package is everything except your leadership team?
Correct. Yeah, this package only includes, is my understanding through collective bargaining, that we had to present instruction and support staff at this time due to evaluations being finalized. So this doesn't include administrative staff, which will go later around probably beginning, I think we have to get it by the beginning of May. Is that right, Mr. Broski?
We would post jobs mid-April, April 15th, we'd post jobs. So in order to facilitate that process, we had to reallocate support and instructional personnel. I believe, and not to put words in your mouth, Mr. Superintendent, but you wanted to reevaluate district administrative staff in order to determine where it would be best needed.
The reappointments have to be on the April 1st agenda, or April 2nd
Correct.
agenda, is that
On
correct?
the April, the first week of April.
So then in April, will you bring the administrative allocations to us to that meeting?
Mr. Broski, does it have to be April, or can it be May?
The administrative.
The administrative could be May.
Okay, I would say that.
Instructional and support must be April.
Yeah, so instructional, this is why instructional support's going now. I would probably wait until May to determine next steps for administration. That way we continue to understand who they are, what they do, and in order to make decisions moving forward.
All right. Thank you. That was a very good presentation. We appreciate you explaining everything as well as you did. I think we all appreciated seeing the formula. It's something we haven't seen before, not since I've been on the board. So there's 25 cards here, and we have less than an hour. You sure you want to have public comment and not board discussion? All right. There probably won't be time for board discussion if you're all okay
Well, I
with
guess
that.
we'll discuss it Thursday night at
Thursday
the
night.
board meeting.
All right. The first card is Miss Renalee Paiva. We are going to use the red light tonight, the timer.
You've got how many cards?
24.
If
I was
people,
looking
if
for the
people
little
could cut
thing
it to
If
two,
it go less than 3,
if people could cut it to 2 minutes, we
When
could
you
hear
get in.
everybody.
I was just kind of looking. Hi, okay. Renalee Paiva, I'm the president of the CCEA. I have so much to say and not enough time to say it. As the president of the CCEA, I only have one focus, and that is to advocate for the children and teachers of Clay County. I don't care what other counties do. I care about what we do. We are a family in Clay County. We care about each other. When cuts are made in Duval, those teachers can go to TU, ViStar, Florida Blue, Aetna, and it used to be able to go to CSX. But when you cut in Clay County, you dislocate teachers. You dislocate people. You dislocate families. You are the biggest employer in Clay County. When you cut people, you move families. Our families. Okay, I get it. We're adding a charter school under the biggest con of the world called school choice. We need another, I thought it was $5 million, that's what I heard before, but I guess it's only $2.5 million. I'm grateful for that. Dollars of public funds to give away. So what do? We cut public school employees. We cannot get together and think of anything else, can we? I am not going to go allocation by allocation. These people will. I am going to say loud, right here and right now, why don't we think outside the box? Let's look at other means of revenue and leave some of us alone. 3 years ago, we hired Kelly Services because they were going to save us money and takes something off the administrator's plate. Our subline was $2.3 million. Now our projected sub-item line is $4.6 million. Why? That would mean that each teacher takes 21 days off. Of course that's not true. Remember the year that you couldn't pay us? One of them? And you gave us a bonus of $100 per sub day? Remember this? Up to the 10 days we had a year, it cost $1,000. You know, we only had a sub line of $2.3 million, so we didn't put it on the salary. We gave it, yes, because teachers take all those days off. George Copeland almost had a heart attack because I think he paid over $4 million to the teachers on bonuses because our teachers in Clay County don't take the time off. Now, how about a task force on the real poverty levels in Clay County? All our families that don't direct certify because they're too busy working their butts off trying to take care of their families, so they ask the churches to help. Permission to finish? We want to help. We want our schools. We want to help our schools. We want solutions. We want to get the Title I funds that we deserve. These are just two things we can look at. Of course, I can throw out a whole lot of stuff like property tax and sales tax, but that would be swearing in Clay County. Let's work together. Let's find ways to really allow our parents to make informed decisions about their children's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. Julie Miller, followed by Kelly Ludlam.
Hi, I'm Julie Miller. I'm a media specialist at Ridgeview High School. First, I want to say I do agree with you that all schools should have media specialists. According to the 2016 Scholastic Library Report, students don't instinctively know how to navigate the information that they need, whether it's print or online. And 75% have no idea how to locate articles and resources they need for their research, while 60% don't verify the accuracy or reliability of the information they find. I can attest to that because I have recently taught 15 class sections a lesson on discerning the credibility of news sources, and these students need professional guidance in this area. This is where librarians play such an important role in schools. Our libraries are so much more than our circulation numbers. First of all, instruction is our main focus. We teach classes in and out of the library in collaboration with our faculty. These are data-driven lessons on 21st century skills that enhance the curriculum. We teach students and teachers how and why to use databases for research so they can use scholarly resources rather than unreliable information on the web. We provide equitable access to computers and other resources for students. We are technology leaders in our school. We train teachers and students in new technology and model new technology such as the Google apps in lessons with the classes. We provide student connections through after-school programs and activities like book clubs, community service opportunities, library advisory boards, tutoring after school, and other groups. And we promote literacy and reading year-round, not just during Celebrate Literacy Week and Teen Read Week, but we celebrate it then too. On top of that, we have a lot of really boring administrative tasks that I'm not going to bore you with, but believe me, they do take up a lot of time. With only one certified media specialist at each high school, it would be impossible for us to maintain anything even closely resembling the current level of service that we provide to students, faculty, and staff. I can't teach a lesson effectively if I'm also expected to keep the media center running for faculty and students who stop by with questions or other needs. Then there are the contractual issues. We are given a planning period and a duty-free lunch. How is that supposed to work if there's only one person manning the media center at high schools and junior highs? On top of that, what about if I have to go to the bathroom? Do I have to kick out the students? I'm sorry, I can't supervise you right now. I have to pee, so go back to class. On January 4th, at the media specialist training, Mr. Davis, you gave us the impression that you were going to take some time to see how libraries operate in Clay County, that you were going to give us the opportunity to demonstrate our value and our impact on student learning and achievement. All we are asking is for you to give us that opportunity. And my invitation to you to visit my library remains open. Thank
Ms.
you.
Miller, before you sit, would you just take a second and explain to us what the Florida Power Media?
Florida Power Library, yes,
Library.
ma'am. Currently, my school is trying to achieve Florida Power Library status. It's very comparable to National Board Certification for Teachers. We have 3 other schools in the district that have achieved this status already, and it is a very big undertaking and a very big status achievement for our libraries. So at this point, I'm kind of wondering, do we continue trying to go for this when I don't even know if I'm going to be at the school next year?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Kelly Ludlam, followed by Kelly Goodwin.
Hi, my name is Kelly Ludlam. I live at 1934 Salt Creek, Fleming Island. I am an elementary technology resource teacher. I sent some letters to the board members, and I have to say, I'm really sad for the kids. I know I'm going to be fine. I'm going to have a position. I may even like it better. I don't know. I'm willing to try. But the kids are going to lose out. I've been a technology resource teacher for 9 years. I've had over 4,000 students. And not just for 1 year, I might have had one of those students for 6 years. So multiple years I have the same students. I've introduced 1,200 students to robotics. I teach robotics in my classroom. I do a robotics club. I do a robotics team. I take 180 unique users daily into the One Clay portal. Without a technology resource, you're going to see the portal used way less because the kids aren't going to be able to get into it. I can tell you there are children right now I've been working with all year who still have trouble logging into the computer and logging into the portal. We expect our kindergartners to type in an 8-digit student number. I provide them a card, and a 6-digit student number and an 8-character password with 3 types of characters. It has to have an uppercase, a lowercase, or a special character and a number. And that's very difficult for kindergarten. From there, they have to log into the portal. There's supposed to be a one-click into the portal. That doesn't work at my school or on my computers. I don't know why. There's been a ticket in forever. But those kids, in order to get them into the portal, they have to type in their lunch number again, and then they have to type in their password again. So right now, they have a goal. Their goal is to learn their I can statement is, I can log in by myself. We're not there, but we work on it. Work past the tiers. 500 students I've taught to log into the the parent portal, the student portal, where they can see their grades. I have kids who've never seen their grades before. They didn't know how they were doing. They can log in and say, oh, I have this grade, I have that grade. Teachers don't have time to teach these kids, and hands-on is the way to learn. If they can't get on a computer, they can't do it. 800 students or more have been taught how to log into email and Google Apps for Education. I teach them how to log into the apps. I had a parent stop me today and said she couldn't believe the professional graphs her 6th grader made for the science fair. She said her daughter typed up the report in Google Apps. She made up the graphs, printed it all out at home because I taught her how to use those apps. Over my 9 years, 1,200 science fair participants have made graphs with me. I individually help anyone who needs it, and I teach the whole class how to make graphs. I've had 6 robotics teams, I've been to 15 competitions, as well as 5 regional and 1 state robotics competition. My program teaches the kids how to integrate technology into their lives. It doesn't skill and drill them. There's a lot more, but I sent a letter to you all. Thank you, and I wish that you would come out and see technology. We're more than you know we are. I don't know that you've been in any of our rooms and appreciate what we do. Like I said, I'll be fine. It's the kids I worry about.
What school were you at?
I'm currently at Shadowlawn. I've also been at Thunderbolt.
All right.
I've also been in a number of other schools in a number of positions. Like I said, I may enjoy something else more. It's very busy being the technology teacher because you do more than teach the kids. You teach the teachers, you teach the administrators, you teach the secretaries. If something breaks, you're the first one to run out to help to fix it.
Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kelly Goodwin. Kelly Goodwin, followed by Liz Crane.
Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Godwin. You have my address on file. I am a national board teacher. I'm also a parent to 4 students in the Clay County School District. and a teacher at Coppergate Elementary. I currently teach the technology resource class, and Mr. Davis recently stated that technology resource is being eliminated because we need to educate the whole child and have avenues to let their hair down. And having 2 arts in place of technology was the way to achieve this. He also stated that technology skills will continue to be embedded in our curriculum maps and offered in the regular classroom. Is that possible in some classrooms where the teacher has experience, training, and confidence to do so? Absolutely. Is that where every teacher in our elementary school is? Absolutely not. I cannot speak for everyone, but more often than not, our teachers are so overwhelmed with the recent changes in the core curriculum and technology, in addition to the lack of resources, and it is a tremendous burden to spend hours outside of their paid day to get those trainings and plan for meaningfully integrating technology beyond skill and drill games and test prep. So we try to bridge that gap by teaching students basic computer skills that they need to be successful in the classroom, and by that I do not mean keyboarding. It means learning how to be true digital citizens, navigate to and from software applications, navigate a website and do research, manipulate shapes and lines and to create custom illustrations that can be inserted into personal narratives, navigate multiple tabs and windows, how to save and find files later, how to share and turn them into their teachers digitally. We open up their world to cultures, landscapes, arts, and music that they would not have otherwise. We teach students how to think critically and problem solve through coding and design in a classroom where mistakes are okay to make. Great gains have been made this year, including several students who have overcome their anxiety of operating a computer. Students who once sobbed and hyperventilated over the words log in and click here are finally brave enough to not only follow directions, but to also to venture to ask questions about the unknowns, and they would not have done that before. Many students are thinking ahead and asking, how do I? And push me to take them to the next level. Students leave my class each day grinning from ear to ear, telling me how fun that learning experience was. I am passionate about technology, but more importantly, the great impact that it does have on our students. Students are generally that are normally unengaged in the classroom often become actively engaged and enthralled in technology resource. Students who thought computers that were just games realize that the wealth of knowledge at their fingertips can be exciting, inspiring, and motivating. Students are gaining life skills in an exciting and engaging format where content can be driven by student interests while still achieving computer science standards in kindergarten through 6th grades. My point today is that if we cut it in every school, we are not developing the whole child. Students would be deprived of opportunities to experience learning activities that may inspire. So today I'm just asking that you consider balance and keep technology in every elementary school.
Thank you. Liz Crane, followed by Teresa Dixon.
Carol, I'm going fast for you, honey. Keep up.
I'm going to put my southern ears on.
Liz Crane, you have my address for the record. Deja vu. It's rather ironic that 8 years ago I stood before the board to ask the board not to cut resource positions from every elementary school. Back then, it was due to the threat from the legislature that we would see a decrease in funding. Teachers were displaced, and PS teachers were bumping AC teachers. One of them's behind me. This was all happening during the FCAT testing season, and lo and behold, the cuts did not happen, and our resource teachers were able to retain their positions at their schools. This year, it's a little bit different. We are returning to the days of every school having art, music, PE, and library on the wheel, and we're cutting technology. There are other cuts as well, and to my understanding, it's to increase the financial fund balance ratio. I arrived in Clay County in 1999. My school, RVE, was blessed to have a computer lab. This lab was maintained by a 3rd grade teacher without extra pay. Teachers would bring their classes into the lab and work with them on different technology projects or use software to assist them in learning. Our 3rd grade teacher found it difficult to maintain the lab because as teachers and students would use the computers there would often be technological difficulties. The 3rd grade teacher could not leave her own class to fix them, and sometimes with good-hearted intentions, the classroom teacher would end up making matters worse when they tried to fix the problem. So what do we have to do to have a workable lab for all the students at our school? RVE was blessed again with school recognition dollars for the next school year. The RVE staff approved and utilized a portion of these dollars to pay for an additional allocation for a technology teacher. She would open the lab for classes, come in, and she would instruct the classes. It was wonderful. We were on a 2-week schedule, and when our teacher was not in the lab, she was in the classrooms either troubleshooting classroom computers or assisting teachers with their own lessons. Soon, technology was becoming more prevalent, and the decision was to place technology on the wheel for a resource schedule as the students needed their lessons on a more frequent basis. It is now 2017, and to my understanding is that we want to return back to 1999 and have teachers and students enter the lab with little or no support. This does not make sense to me. Students are expected to do more and more learning online. However, now we want to take away the one resource that will help them learn how to do that. Businesses across America do more and more selling online. We bank online, we make purchases online, we job hunt online. Where will our students learn how to do this? Some of our families do not have computers at home or online access. School is where they learn how to use the computer and the internet. Our students deserve a specialized teacher in technology that they can see on a weekly basis. We are in the technological age, and our students need to be kept current on technological advancements. I ask that you keep our technology teachers intact at the elementary level. Thank you.
Hi, Teresa Dixon. I'm president of CESPA. So I'm the first one to come up here and speak about support cuts. And I just want you to know support cuts are really nothing new for support. It happens almost every year that there are cuts to the support world. I do have some concerns, however. Number one, the media text that I see being eliminated from the junior high. My concern here is a lot of what I'm hearing here, no resource teachers and so on like that. Your media techs are often one of those people that the teachers, staff, and students can go to help and to assist with any technological difficulties, especially since within the last few years we've seen a drastic, and I mean drastic, cut in our techs, our computer techs that are at the schools. We used to have one computer IT person at every school to help with problems that would happen during the day. Now we have one person that's shared between 3 or 4 schools. And I know as a testing coordinator, when something goes wrong at my school technologically, it's very difficult, or more difficult, to get that assistance because these guys and gals are spread so thin. Your media techs help fill that spot in many cases. So I'd like you to think about that. The other thing that I see are a lot of cuts in our LPNs regarding staff. And I understand cuts have to happen sometimes, but I want you to think about the impact of the cuts that are being made. Your RNs right now are currently doing a great deal of their work involves Medicaid billing. Medicaid dollars bring in a lot of money for this district, a lot of money. With that RN being responsible for verifying every bit of that Medicaid billing, you cut all those LPNs who are assisting in the actual care for the students while the nurses also caring for the students but having to do this massive paperwork in advance. And there's going to be cause and effect in that. So I think that needs to be considered. It could cost this district an enormous amount of money if that billing is not done appropriately, and if your nurses are so backed up with the other duties without the assistance of the LPN, it could really cost you. The other thing I just want to say is our contract regarding CESPA is a little different from the teacher contract. We do have language that talks about surpluses, and actually the language that we follow is our reduction and recall language. So as you're making these cuts, I want you to be aware that we're going to be watching to be sure that seniority plays a role in these cuts and how people are moved about. That's going to be very important. That follows contract language, and if we need to, we can have a discussion on that. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, could I ask her a question real quick? Ms. Dixon, can LPNs do the Medicaid billing, or is it
No,
have
ma'am,
to be
it has
RN?
to be an RN.
Okay.
RN has to do the Medicaid billing.
Okay, thank you.
Not every school has an RN either. There's
Right,
quite
not
a
every
few that
school
don't.
has it. So what do they do? Well, that's for discussion. I don't want to take up their time. We'll talk
The-
Thursday.
Next speaker is Annette Gray, followed by Crystal Zaragoza, and I apologize if I said that wrong.
Hello, my name is Annette Gray, and I teach PE at Thunderbolt Elementary. As both a parent and teacher, I'm here to speak with you regarding the loss of a PE position at Thunderbolt Elementary. My credentials consist of being a National Board Certified teacher, assisting with benchmarking at the national level for the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards, and having a master's degree in ed leadership. I have worked at Thunderbolt since its opening 17 years ago. Of these 17, 15 have included 2 PE teachers. As our enrollment increased, we have maintained at least 6 resource teachers, including technology. At times, we had 8. The allocation proposal will drop us to 5. We currently have just under 1,000 students. This is comparable to a local junior high that had an enrollment of approximately 1,039 students, but had 4 PE teachers. With 2 PE teachers, we currently see the students about 6 days in a month. Losing a PE teacher will drop the days with the PE instructor to sometimes only 2 days a month. Recess is not PE. We currently see class sizes up to 28. When we co-teach, which we often do, we see classes of up to 55 students. We teach a total of 50 classes and are responsible for covering 309 standards. We assess almost 500 students with the FitnessGram protocol to determine achievement of healthy fitness levels. This currently takes us a month and a half to complete. This high workload is due to the size of our school, again, just under 1,000 students. We have worked very hard creating a quality PE program at TBE. It is extremely discouraging to see it potentially taken apart. For 15 years, the district and school board have realized the necessity for 2 physical education teachers to meet the needs of a school this size. Our program is not just about teaching 30-minute classes. Our aim is to equip students with the tools and desire to make healthy nutrition and activity choices now and throughout their lives. To do this, we include extra activities to take our program to the next level. We have a run-walk program that takes place during the school day and includes all students. Last year, students ran a total of 29,306 miles. Many students now participate in community runs and distances up to half marathons. Parents are supportive of this program, and we regularly receive positive feedback. We have had the pleasure of having Mrs. Karakas spend the day with us a few years ago, and hope she can attest to its benefit. The record keeping in this program is very time consuming but worth the effort. As a result, we were the first school in the district to purchase and implement the Stride Track software program to maintain data that students and parents have access to. Now, as an example of how difficult it is to do this job alone, I'm unable to completely include all the necessary support in under 3 minutes. Therefore, my coworker, Crystal Saragosa, will finish addressing our concerns during her allotted time. Thank you.
My name is Crystal Zaragoza, and I am a PE teacher at Thunderbolt Elementary, and will now continue speaking about the loss of 1 position at TBE. In addition to Run Walk, we participate in community fun runs. We annually participate in the American Heart Association's Jump Rope for Heart program. We sponsor our track team, giving up mornings and afternoons for tryouts. Students have participated in Relay for Life activities with our sponsorship. We took a group to Fuel Up to Play 60 workshop on a Saturday in October. 44 of our students are participating in the Junior River Run, and this does not include the students who will run the full 15K. All of these extra activities we implement do not include the daily responsibilities we have to teach our classes, write lesson plans, maintain a web page, communicate with parents, and keep up with all assessment data. 1 PE teacher cannot keep up with the standards we have worked so hard to set. Again, the size of our school population will be a major obstacle. The 2016 U.S. Report Card on Physical Activity for Children and Youth shows that 3/4 of American children do not meet current physical activity recommendations. This puts them at risk for increased health problems. We are at a time when quality physical education is important in addressing this problem. Physical education is being recognized as an important part of all students' well-rounded education. This is supported by the Every Child Succeeds Act. why would we take a step backwards here in Clay County? Florida statute section 1003.455 requires 150 minutes of physical education each week for elementary students. It states that it is the responsibility of each district school board to develop a physical education program that stresses physical fitness and encourages helpful, active lifestyles, and to encourage students in kindergarten through 12 to participate in physical education. It also states all physical education program and curricula must be reviewed by a certified physical education instructor. Recess should not take the place of a structured physical education program. We are asking that we be allowed to maintain what we currently have to meet the needs of this school. We are asking the Superintendent Davis and the school board take into consideration our unique needs as an elementary school with such a high enrollment. Students' needs come first. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Christy Torode, followed by Michelle Roberts. I hope I said that correctly. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having this forum for us to express our opinions. We do appreciate it. I'm Christy Torode. I have lived in Clay County for 36 years. I have been an employee of the Clay County Schools for 5 years and have enjoyed every minute of it. What I want to address today, did I say I'm a media specialist at Oak Leaf? I'm sorry. At the agenda workshop, Mr. Davis, you pointed out, and again you pointed out today, the difference in circulation for elementary schools and high schools. And if you look at that one number without giving it some thought, there, you say, oh, well, the high schools are not doing their jobs. We don't have a lot of circulation. So I know you didn't mean that, but I want to explain a little bit more about what we do and how we come to that. At the elementary school, you did say that they have weekly scheduled visits, and every student goes through and checks out books. At the high school, we really don't have set times for students to come in and check out books. The students can come in before school. They can come in after school. They can come in at lunch. They can come in with passes from their teachers when they've finished their work in there. So there's not a resource schedule that they can come and check out books daily. Last week at OHS, out of the 4-day school week, we had classes in the Media Center, full 6 periods, 3 classes for 3 days of the 4 days. We had classes all in there. Did those kids check out books? Most of them did not. Did they work? Yes. Did we assist them? Yes. They learned, we were an integral part, but they didn't check out books. We are also used as testing centers, the Media Center. At OHS, I counted today, from now until the end of school, we are going to be closed 34 days for testing. If you're closed, your patrons cannot see you. That's students and teachers. So that's an issue. Also, when you look at the numbers, Mr. Davis, at the elementary school level, you said there was 450,000 books checked out. Now, elementary school books usually have an average, and it's been proven, of 4,000 words. That's picture books, easy readers, chapter books. 4,000 words, 450,000 books. That's 1.8 billion words those children have read. At the high school level, you stated that there were 29,000 books checked out. Now, at the high school level, young adult novels usually have an average of 68,000 words. It's going to take a little bit longer to get through those books, so there's not as much circulation, okay? That turns out to 1.97 billion words. When you put that together, the elementary and the media and the high school are just about the same. So I appreciate you consideration. I'm running out of time, but it's needed at the high school level 2 media specialists. There's differences in student size. I'm at a school with 2,300 students. So 1 media specialist at that size school is going to be hard pushed to serve the patrons like we have in the past. And it takes certified media specialists at every school. And we appreciate you putting those certified specialists at those elementary schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Michelle Roberts, followed by Mylan Pope.
I'm Michelle Roberts, and I'm an ESE teacher. I'm here to advocate for our instructional technology positions at the elementary schools. I want to take you back to August when we're rolling in Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, Gmail, all different from what we had previously done. It was our instructional technology teachers who helped navigate the staff, the principals, administration, and the children through all those different changes. Now we have children that every child in Clay County has an email account, and they're learning how to do these Google Docs. Well, as a person who taught a regular ed grade for several years, I didn't have time to do all those technology things. I was too busy getting my children ready for a test that they had to take at the end of March that would determine whether or not they would pass that grade level. It was our technology teachers who helped do those different things that they needed to have done, the practicing, the learning how to type, because now everything has to be typed in. I mean, they're kindergartners, they're 5. They're taking SAT 10, they're taking, FSA for the first time. Third graders will be taking the FSA math on the computer. This is their first time. And it's our technology teachers who are helping to navigate them through the process, what the tools mean, what we're doing. How do you do this? How do you highlight? How do you maneuver? How do you drag and click? Because let's be honest, in the technology world that we are now, our kids are swiping. They're not using mice anymore. They're swiping iPads. They're swiping phones. They're not using the mice to drag and click. That's not what technology is now. They're talking in, and it's detecting their voice and putting out what they've said as a text. Even with all of that, our technology teacher, and this has been for many years, our new one and the one that I've had for the past several years, they run teacher PD for technology, Google, the Chromebooks, the educational apps. They troubleshoot basic computer because, let's be honest, elementary gets the hand-me-downs from the high schools and the junior highs, so there's lots of technology issues. I myself had one that the county caused, and it was my instructional technology person who fixed it. So they do that on campus, and they communicate with the instructional or the instructional support people at the county office. They create and implement individualized student account plans with fellow teachers on teams and the student passwords. Now, these little kindergartners, they have to change their passwords every 90 days, just like we do. They're 5. Okay, I can barely remember mine. I don't know how a child can remember that. They help with that. They help with digital resources, the purchases for the media center. They test and proctor these computer-based testing they're running. They test application practice for students. They store technology resources. They help inventory for additional items such as the mice, the monitors, the power strips. They fundraise for the purchase of new technology resources because we're not getting it from the county. The one that we have now sends out a weekly flyer on educational apps that can be used in a classroom, that can be used with those Chromebooks, the iPads. They create and maintain a computer lab calendar for teachers to sign in, and this is on 2 labs, sometimes 3 labs. They coordinate and schedule the computer-based testing with the district coordinator, and they can coordinate and schedule professional development opportunities with district personnel at DIS as well as the county office. These people are vital to what we do on a daily basis in elementary education. You want more technology. You want more, the hands-on with the technology and them doing this digitally and them doing this digitally. Well, then give us the resource that we need and keep our technology teachers in our schools, because they are the ones that are meeting those standards. They are the ones that are helping us. They are the ones that are teaching these children, guiding them, navigating them so they can be the most successful they can possibly be.
Ms. Roberts.
Thank you.
There's others who want to speak. Thank you. We have Mylan Pope followed by Wendy West.
My name is Mylan Pope. I'm a teacher at Wilkinson Junior High. You have my address. We're proud to be one of the digital discovery schools in the county, and it's been a great experience, wonderful. They say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I've learned new tricks this year, and it's been a good thing for me, and it's been great for our students. The Digital Discovery Program has helped us teach in new ways, reach kids in different ways. It's been effective. It's been well received. The kids like it. The teachers like it. And I think it's been a very, very positive thing. When I found out we were going to lose our media tech, I wondered how the Digital Discovery Program is going to keep working at our school. She plays a vital role in making sure that our kids' Chromebooks work, are maintained, are kept up with, and believe it or not, the Chromebooks occasionally have issues. If we don't have a media tech, who's going to do that? Well, what will happen is there will be another responsibility given to a teacher or someone else who doesn't have the time to do it, and it won't be done correctly and it won't be done efficiently. And it drives me crazy to reduce people to statistics and data pieces. Our media tech has a name. Her name is Debbie Christie. And I can't imagine our school existing without her. And I don't know if any thought was given to the digital discovery schools or not, but we're one that needs our media tech. And if it's going to be eliminated, things are going to have to be figured out about how we're going to deal with that. So the digital discovery program has been very positive, been great, but we don't need to lose our media tech. And I'll be less than 3 minutes with
Thank
that.
you, Mr.
Hopefully that's clear.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Wendy West, followed by Mary Barth.
Hello, I'm Wendy West. I'm the media specialist at Oakleaf Junior High, and this is my media tech. We are a team. We work very hard together. She is distributing packets to you of letters written by our students and teachers of how important both of us are. Both of us are very important, not just me. I honestly say I could not do everything I do without her. And besides being the media specialist and in charge of the media center and all the equipment and a huge budget to buy equipment, books, I teach the TV production class. I'm also the Facebook manager and the webmaster. I don't know how I will be able to perform all these duties without the assistance of Miss Duggan. I also attached the letter that I sent you all. I sent it by email, but I was afraid you did not have time to read it, so I attached that, plus the media tech job assignments, and you can see it's so much more than just checking books in and out. So very much more. She interacts with classes that visit, suggests books, helps students locate books. We reset probably it feels like about 1 million passwords every day. We have to do that because our tech teacher, he's not a full-time tech guy there, and who is in charge of the enhanced classrooms? He's in class, I'm with classes. Mrs. Duggan is the one that immediately goes out to help these people get their classrooms up and running. It's very important, and that affects teachers being able to teach and students being able to learn. When we are not able to, if I were with a class and Mr. Walker is with a class, we would have no one to go out there. And I know Mr. Davis had said that that shouldn't be a job for media, but that's a perfect world, and unfortunately we don't have a full-time tech guy in our class to take care, or in our school to take care of this. And our school is very large, over 1,500 students. So without her, I don't know how it would be able to provide the services that we provide every day. Mr. Davis, you said that because our circulation statistics are not as large as the elementary schools, that you felt that a media specialist can do it all. We can do it all by ourselves. And we can, because we do. We do a lot of it by ourselves. But how well will it be done? And will the cost of saving $133,000 justify the impact it will have on teachers and students. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Barth, followed by Vicki Kidwell. Thank you. Vicki Kidwell, followed by Melanie Lee.
I'm in a hurry so everybody can talk. Okay, I edited like crazy, like I was scratching stuff out, so I'm going to be fast. My name is Victoria Kidwell. I'm a first grade teacher at Argyle Elementary School, and you have my address, of course. Scratch. I hope that you are beginning to see that teachers in Clay are deeply invested and dedicated to their schools and children that they serve. We consider our profession a calling and a profession which has the potential to change lives. I want to thank you for putting art instruction back into schools. I think that's really important. The research supporting the value of art education is vast. But today I want to make a plea for the importance of keeping the technology teachers in the elementary schools. I have here some notes that were given to me by our tech teacher at AES about some of the important things that she does. This year, tech had its own standards, which are very in-depth. Standards for every grade level are quite rigorous, and tech teachers address the standards for every student every day. Within the standards are typing and keyboarding skills. Most of the FSA testing is online now, so the kids got to type. Due to FSA testing, students are required to type responses to the test and are still given a very limited amount of time to do that. Students have to be fluent in typing to have time to complete the test. In technology, we focus on typing correctly with punctuation, grammar, and capitalization. We all bemoan the loss of instructional time for test prep. Tech class is an effective way to prepare for high-stakes tests. Students also complete practice FSA tests in tech to protect instructional time. Standards in kindergarten and above set the goals that every student knows the basics of computer operation, how to open programs, turn it on and off, Google websites safely, fix and adjust volume of speakers, headphones, logging on and logging off. The county guidelines change so that every student, no matter grade level or age, has to log themselves in and out. Every student has to learn how to do this. Reteaching and repetition is important in primary. I didn't even take my class to the lab because they can't log on, they're 6, until she worked with them half the year. Christmas is when I started taking them. And they still can't log on. Is it an A? Is it a B? Is it a C? Because of and it changes all the time. It takes them forever. And it takes me standing over there and watching them. You can't do it for them. I'm telling you, if we don't have a tech teacher, it ain't going to happen. The tech teacher creates logins for the students and changes their passwords every 90 days. Students are asked to create projects and assignments, not in first grade, thank God, using Google Classroom. This is something that students learn while they're in tech class and use in their regular class. So she works in depth with them. These skills are needed for safe and effective research throughout the year. The county also asks students to use their student portal, so every tech day they log into their student portal from class. She teaches the students how to get to their portal, what tools are in the portal, how to find their grades, and how to get to their online textbooks. These are the things that they do in technology. If the future is technology, so that computer coding is even being considered now a foreign language, then Clay needs to move boldly into that future and embrace technology and have a technology in every elementary school. Technology teacher is important.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Lee, followed by Lonnie Roberts. Melanie Lee? I'm sorry, decline? All right, thank you. Mr. Roberts, followed by Brandy Stasiak.
Good afternoon. Named Lonnie Roberts. I'm the CESPA Vice President. I'm calling being here today because of custodial. My address is on the sheet. We have, as I looked at the PowerPoint that was put out on the online, I started noticing the numbers for custodial staff. We are basically understaffed at every grade level here in the county. I know since 2007, when all of this happened, the big crash, the recession happened and everything, as custodial staff left, most positions did not get reappointed. So now, as I'm looking at, the allocation formulas for an elementary school, The head custodian is supposed to be one head custodian per school, and then one custodian per 22,500 square feet of space that's there. As I'm looking through all of the schools that's here, it looks like they're adding the head custodian to every spot that's there. So if it's supposed to be 4 custodians that's supposed to be there, it's actually 3 custodians and the head custodian. My question is, when are we going to sit there and start staffing these correctly? Also, the cleaning gear for them. Some elementary schools only get like $4,500 per school in order to sit there and clean. I've been called and say, hey, we've run out of wax, we ran out of toilet paper, we run out of paper towels. It takes about sometimes 3 days in order for them to go ahead and get some of these cleaning supplies and supplies back to the schools. Also, as we know, everything goes up. So with that budget has been staying there for the past 4 years, from what I hear from the elementary. Now this is elementary. I'm pretty sure junior high and high school got a bigger budget than that. Each elementary school that I've talked to all of my head custodians there, they're saying right around about 4,500. They have to wait until the next fiscal year, which is, we all know, is July 1, when the extra money starts coming down the pike. And once that money gets there, then they can go ahead and get the wax, the sealing, to go ahead and finish waxing floors. Majority of the time, they are actually waiting on wax. So once they finish fixing whatever they're going to do during the summertime, cut grass, move teachers' desks around, they need to go ahead and be there. And that also plays into why they're also understaffed. We also have being understaffed. Once a custodian, say like Dr. Zenlet, we'll say that for instance, they have 3 custodians and 1 head custodian. If one head custodian one custodian is down, they're done. It's hard for the custodians actually to make up that time and clean every single building, every single portable that's on that campus. And so now we have not only that school, we have all the rest of the elementary schools and all the rest of the high schools and juniors at the same time. So I just want to go ahead and put something into your ear. We need to go ahead and staff these appropriately so we don't have germs and stuff growing, especially in the elementaries. We need to keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Good afternoon, Brandy Stasiak. My address is on file. Here to speak on behalf of some teachers and some parents, specifically regarding the self-contained language impaired classroom with varying exceptionalities. Number one, I'm thrilled. I think most of us are in the room to hear that we're getting art, music, PE back in every single school. That's wonderful, and that's our goal. There's also a huge need for technology. So, Mr. Davis, I don't envy you nor any of you board members your job, but it sounds to me like we need to raise some taxes, raise millage rate, raise some money. If we want the programs that St. Johns County and other counties have, we have to pay for them. Don't shoot me on the way out. I'm a Clay County resident myself. I pay taxes too. On to self-contained varying exceptionalities. We have several classrooms. My school, Shadowline Elementary, is one that houses that program. I won't speak as much to some of the other schools, although I know, Ms. Condon, you guys have one in Keystone. We have one at Plantation Oaks. There's a couple of places that have K through 5 and K through 6 models in your schools. My understanding is that compressed model does not work as well as the split model at my school does. My school is K through 2, 3rd and 4th, and 5th and 6th. It's been a very successful program. It obviously costs money that we've all figured out that we need more of. However, I'm here to speak for some parents that don't feel that it's age appropriate, nor is it as effective and serve adequately their children in a split model. And our split model is the best, not the compressed model that we have. We've got some questions that have been asked just of me today that I can't answer. Some of those questions include what happens to these compressed model children if we don't do as we normally do, which we normally staff in children every year at the beginning of the year. We get more kids in. And that generally justifies the classroom sizes that we're looking at. But we also have some junior high parents that have asked some questions. One of them is the current allocation for Lakeside Junior High School. The LI teacher is now being listed as a support facilitator. The question is does this change the setting that her son is served in? Is that still a self-contained classroom? How is that going to work? That particular parent's child is a graduate of the program at Shadowlawn Elementary and has been part of a very successful model and is doing extremely well and now feels like junior high is slipping backwards. So I think we have all considered the need for these types of programs. I'd also like to point out we are one of the only ones around. St. Johns County does not have a varying exceptionalities language impaired program. Putnam County, Duval County, Alachua County, we're the only one. This is an opportunity for Clay County to model what it really means to elevate Clay and serve all children. Military families come in and out of this every couple of years. We've actually had military families at our schools get their orders changed to stay in Clay County because the needs of their students can be served best right here. The people in this room have spoken to that on varying levels. Let's keep it that way. Let's do what we have to do. If we need a task force, let's form one. But we need to keep these programs, especially for our children that are most vulnerable. These children are among our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Bill Booth, followed by Elaine Neighbors.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. You folks have got your work cut out for you.
State your name and address, please.
I'm sorry? Bill Booth. You have my address on file. My daughter, Reese Booth, attended Shadowlawn Elementary with Miss Elaine Neighbors. I'm used to calling her Miss, like the kids do, Miss Neighbors. She is an angel. Let me just explain to you the advancements that my daughter, she spoke something called jargon. A young lady in Publix one time said, sound like another language. She was sitting in the grocery cart and she just would babble on. When she got in Miss Neighbors' class, or Elaine Neighbors' class, she has excelled. These children, you need to understand, are vulnerable, and no one, I feel, is advocating for them. Excuse me. They are every bit but good as the regular ed children. I know what it feels like. Oh yeah, I know what it feels like to be in a compressed class and to hear students talk to you. I performed well in sports, and then say, yeah, we can't come to your house because my dad said you were in special learning disability classes. No one advocated for us. If you yank funding, and that's what this, I guess this pejorative that you use, allocation plan and streamlining and all these other bureaucracy words, it just means you're going to yank funding from these and make it from these kids and make it more compressed. We can't have that. You will fail these children. No one's advocating for them. That's why I'm kind of emotional about this. It's because I know how it feels. Now, I've gone on to get an engineering degree in robotics. You know, I don't want anybody feeling sorry for this old bird. It's okay. But I know what it's like when people say, yeah, those are the kids over there. We can't have that. This is Clay County, not Duval. You said it. You spoke to teachers in my own church. You met with them. You said that you were not going to go to Duval. Well, it's terrible over there. Just joined a gym. Kid from Duval is the one that signed me up. He goes, hey, he used language I can't even begin to clean up to describe what's going on in Duval. This is Clay County. Was raised here since 1979. Was no lights anywhere. This is my hometown. And I decided to come back from California to come back here because it's Clay County. I don't even know who the language impaired class teacher is at Lake Asbury Junior High. I don't know who. We don't know. It's a support facilitator. You know, and it's like, this is not a joke. This is for real. Take these kids seriously. My daughter has excelled along with these other kids. I yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Mr. Booth, thank you.
Through the chair.
Sorry. Sure.
Sorry, through the chair, Mr. Booth. I appreciate you being here this evening, and I want you to know that in this school, it's going to 3 classrooms to 2, so it's not going away. The issue is that it's the number of kids that's being serviced in those classrooms. So if they don't have the number of kids to generate another class, then we have to continue the services in the school, and that's why we moved from a standalone class to a support facilitator class. So that individual will go and service kids in the school through push in, pull out models to help them in every core content area. And then if the numbers continue to grow in these classes you speak about, then that individual can be placed back into that setting in order to service our kids. But I want to let you know today that we're not taking the teacher because we're removing it. We're taking the teacher because they don't have enough students to generate 3 classrooms. They only generate 2.
Okay, just know that these children take the FCAT test. These kids are bright.
Oh, absolutely.
They do, and they're not on like access points like
Sure.
my son who is in autistic class.
Sure.
So they're taking the FCAT, and they're intelligent children. They need the extra. They need extra teachers in there. They need that extra time, the special circumstances, I guess, where they have extra time and they can split the curriculum up. This has helped these kids. That cannot be taken away. I'm just going to mention off a few.
Mr. Booth, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree. We will protect it, so thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elaine Neighbors, followed by Paula Summers.
I'm going to be quick, not 3 minutes. Elaine Neighbors, I'm on file. Okay, I wasn't going to speak. I was going to defer, but I just want to clear a couple things up really quick. Made me cry. I'm a Florida high-impact teacher. Okay, that's pretty awesome. We have a lot of them, 130, right? I did that with a population who's the most vulnerable in our county. I did it because we serve our children correctly in this county, in our self-contained language impaired program. I understand the numbers, I get it. We all have to budget. I have to budget in my home. Okay, I get it. Here's the thing. We staff children in every year. So when you reduce a classroom, what happens when we get new students? We get 5 to 7 students each year. We staff them in. So it makes me worry. Like, what's going to happen? Are you guys just not going to staff them in? Because that was kind of the rumor that we had heard. I know I went to the Listen and Learn, and that was cleared up. But if that's true, if you're really not going to impede on the staffing in, then what happens when we get those kids and we have no place to put them? It's a lot easier, right? It's a lot harder to get it back once you get rid of it. So just be super careful. I've worked in this county for 19 years. I've been around for a while. I know I look super young, but but I've been around. So I just don't take it lightly. And please come see. Here's the thing. I'm passionate about this program because it works. It's one of the, I don't want to say one of the few programs that works, because that makes it sound like we got a lot of broken programs, but it's a really great program. So when it's done well, it's done well. My other thing I want to leave you with really quick. We have some language impaired classrooms in this county that are K through 5. That's what Ms. Stasiak was talking to. They're all in the same room. Come on, guys. I can't do that. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not that good, okay? So in the past, like I said, 19 years, I've been doing language impaired, self-contained for 19 years. That's all I've done for this county. What we've done is we've been really smart. We've said, all right, these kids over here, because we don't have enough to make 2 classes, we've taken that classroom out of that school and consolidated it to another school. So Plantation Oaks, we have K through 5 in one classroom. Keystone Elementary, we have K through 6 in one classroom. Hey, how are you going to do that? Put kindergarten in with 5th grade? That's not the smartest model. I mean, that's not being fiscally responsible. It's not being emotionally, academically, or socially. So, yes, let's look. Can we please make some really smart decisions? I'm done. Sorry, I lied. I took 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Neighbors. We have 6 more cards. Ms. Summers, followed by Jeanette DeRocco. If we go quick, we can get everybody in. We have to absolutely, at 6:30, they're coming in to set up for History Fair.
Thank you. I'm Paula Summers. I'm a music teacher at Oakleaf Village Elementary. My address is on the card. I will try to stick to 2 minutes if I can. I have come to speak about resource in the elementary level. I know that you've already heard from many people about the technology and the importance of that, so I will not duplicate that. However, my concern is more to the formula of overall numbers. Oakley Village went from 6 resources last year to 5 this year. This upped our class sizes where I have 30 students in a classroom for my upper grades. For some of our resource teachers, not me, but for some of the others, that means they have no more extra seats in their room. We've had to shift students around as they come in so that they're all exactly at 30 because there are no more seats, nor are there places to put seats. That's because we have to split classes to accommodate all the grade level. Now we're slated to drop to 4 next year. I've spent this year working on getting more instruments so that all of my students have something to play. And just as I got another Donors Choose project funded, we're dropping to 4. And some of you were able to hear my 5th grade percussion ensemble at the Teacher of the Year event. While this is an extracurricular group, it doesn't start in 5th grade. It starts when they play a music class. And they will not be doing much playing in music class if we have an average class size of mid-30s to possibly 40, depending on the grade level. That's not something we will be able to do. While I have room in my room to put them, I do not have room to do quality instruction, and my concern is for the quality of instruction. I appreciate greatly the commitment to have art, music, media. This is my 15th year teaching in Clay County, and I've been through this every spring in some level, but I greatly appreciate that. I'm thrilled at that, but the quality of instruction matters as well. We will not have the quality of instruction if a school with less than 400 students and a school with just barely under 900 students have the same number of resources. There's something there, and I'm not saying they should have less, but I'm saying we need to look at how that works out. Students with less than 400 deserve all those resources, but our kids deserve to be taught those resources where they can all play an instrument and not have to rotate in a 30-minute period. Who gets to do that? So I thank you for your consideration of the quality of instruction and not just having all the resources. That is such an important step. I thank you for it, but let's also look at the numbers and how that's going to impact my teaching in my classroom, which I'm passionate about for my students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeanette Duraco.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Duraco, and I'm a media specialist at Green Cove Springs Junior High. My address is on the file. I must tell you, I have been so impressed with how you have all actively listened to every single speaker. Years past, when they did the cuts, it was not the case, and I really feel that you are listening to the needs of your community. I was asked to speak today directly about junior high issues. But if you're thinking of cutting technology in the elementary level, I think you are sorely misled. Think of the testing alone that is all technology now. And I think our high school media specialists spoke very well for themselves. Thank you for supporting our libraries. I watched the allocation workshop on Tuesday, February 21st, and I really appreciate how several of you spoke so highly of the media centers and the importance of literacy in our schools. I have worked at the public library. I worked in Duval County Public Schools, and I've had the pleasure of working in Clay County for 18 years. I've worked for 13 years at the elementary level, and I cannot express how relieved I was when I heard you were keeping the media tech positions at the elementary level. Please help us keep the media tech positions at the junior high, and it would be wonderful if you can add them back to the high school and keep the second media specialist as well. Our media techs allow us the freedom to teach our students and assist our teachers. The media tech is integral to the success of our library programs. I provide lessons in computer labs, and I go into classrooms right now to work with the teachers and students in accessing programs, databases, logging onto the computer. This would be impossible without my assistant. Yes, I can stay after school, and I can come in on weekends, and I can shelve books, and I can repair our material, I can laminate, I can place orders on my own time, I can create newsletters and bulletins all on my own time, but I cannot clone myself or grow an extra set of eyes to monitor students. I cannot leave a group of students that have been sent to the media center to do a makeup test or research and go troubleshoot a problem with an enhanced classroom, or even walk into a lab to help a student who's having trouble on one of the computers. I cannot help two classes of students in the media center and students who have come out of 7 of our labs conduct their science fair research while also checking out students who have been sent down on passes or help a student work on their computer problem. Our media techs do work with our students. Our media techs do reset computer passwords, and they troubleshoot Chromebooks, and they help students log on and work with the various databases and programs we have. Our media techs do assist our teachers in locating material, and they do help teach our students. Our media techs don't make a ton of money, though. Please consider an alternative to cutting these 6 positions at our level. They are an invaluable resource for our schools.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Kachoit, and I apologize if I've said that wrong, followed by Casey Leone.
I knew it was me when you were holding the paper over.
I said to Carol, how do you say this?
It's co-kite, like you drink
Oh,
a Coke and
gosh.
fly a kite.
Well,
Okay, so
If it makes you feel any better, it took me a while to learn my last name, too.
It's all right.
Me too.
It's all right. So I am the CVA representative for the union, and I have collected questions from everyone because we all know information is power. So I don't expect answers tonight, but I know that we have teachers having these questions, so that I would hope that we would put out an answer to them. And they're not in any order. I'm so sorry. They're scribbled all over my paper. Here we go. If it's instructional, why are the assistant principals included in it? If this is, why does it take all the way to today to find out this is called a surplus, not a reduction in force? And where can employees find the guidelines for how people are moving and how people are chosen? If we're in compliance with student numbers with these allocation adjustments, what do you feel the process will look like when a new school is open to relieve current crowded situations? Are we indicating overcrowding when we eliminate positions? At the virtual school, we have many overlapping certifications. How do you determine who goes? Because that's how we were selected, because we all overlap. And also, it doesn't really reflect, we have one of the largest percentage cuts per employee at the virtual school. We're losing a lot of people, a lot of positions. Your cut doesn't reflect the specialized training those teachers have gone to. When you go to the virtual school and people come in, they are in shock. They come in thinking, I know how to use a computer. And we don't call it a learning curve, we call it a learning mountain. We throw you up against the side and yell, climb, climb, we've got you, go. Because nobody else has ever done it. There's nothing to prepare you for this. And so you're taking people that have that specialized training, putting them back into another position, which they will appreciate having another position. But when numbers fluctuate, they're going to have somebody go back in there who also has to go through that shock and that learning. So I think that's a serious consideration to take. Also, I was told, and I have not had time to evaluate this because, people sent me questions. Last year, CVA generated enough FTE to cover its costs with its current positions. So cutting, we're wondering how that happens. Also, I'm sorry, I lost my place on my jumbled paper. Okay. If a teacher is identified as a person to move to a different location, we have teachers in our county who transferred to schools to meet their family obligations like handicapped children. If they're identified to move, even if they're AC, some of them have been there for 8 years on AC. So they've moved their family to where their child goes to school or where they can transport their child. And can they get some kind of a hardship circumstance so that people will listen to them if they have an extreme need? What is the reasoning for the increase in principals? I know you went through it with the assistant principals to 11-month positions, but it's also linked to ISS is going from 0.6 to 0.8. That really indicates behavioral needs, and we're wondering if we're having a problem with discipline issues that we aren't aware of. That kind of reflects that situation. And then you said that school-based leadership and principals chose. We're wondering how much leeway principals will have in reassigning personnel and the morale of the district if the principals are responsible for those decisions and that they have to let people go. And I will just yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Casey Leone, followed by Shannon Isam.
Hi, my name is Casey Leone, and I'm a teacher at Lake Asbury Elementary School. There are several of us here advocating on behalf of our technology teacher. She's not able to be here tonight, but I do want to speak for her. And you've heard so many people talk about the additional jobs of a technology teacher. They're not just teaching students in the classroom. They're also doing computer repairs, teaching coding, assisting teachers with technology needs, FSA assistant, test administrator, maintaining 4 labs specifically at our school. In addition, she's running tutoring multiple mornings a week. A lot of that is unpaid. She's focused on working with our lower quartile students on her own time. She's also using her own time to train teachers. So she's obviously doing quite a lot, and it would be a big hole in our school to lose out on that. We would not have somebody to maintain those computer labs. We would not have somebody to assist us. I mean, there is no technical assistance that we have at our school. But my big concern that really hasn't been addressed enough, I think, is the fact that we now have computer science standards that are being worked into the science curriculum map. And I am a science teacher. I teach the gifted science. And there is no plan in place for that, I feel. They're trying to squeeze it into science, and over my 11 years of teaching science education, that's already a forgotten subject. You want to teach second graders 30 minutes of science in a day, but now you want to double the standards being taught in that 30-minute block. And putting computers in the classroom is not good enough because we know these students need guided instruction. You can't just have them at a center in your classroom. You need to guide them through that. So it's not going to be as efficient just having computers. And right now, because not all schools are one-to-one, it's not feasible to really teach those computer science standards effectively in the science curriculum without having one-on-one devices, because currently only 3 schools have the one-to-one devices. So I really would like you to consider the additional standards that our students would miss out on by not having a technology teacher, because I love our classroom teachers and they are highly qualified. But when it comes to technology, we're just not ready to have every classroom teacher be a technology teacher, and we just don't have the resources. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Shannon Issam. She left. Denise Turner. And this is our last card.
My name's Denise Turner, and I work at Orange Park Junior High School. I've been at Orange Park Junior for 17 years. Okay, this is it. As a media tech, my focus has always been on our students. And removing the media techs from all schools, or the junior high schools, will have a huge impact on our students. And I'm not only a media tech, I am a classroom assistant, I am a mentor. I do several things for our students. And without those jobs in our school, our kids will lose out so much. Our job responsibilities as a media tech is repairing books. I also do the password reset. I'm sorry, I'm just very nervous. I assist with AR. I'm a Destiny co-library administrator. I complete ILLs. I worked close with the history fair and science fair teachers. I've came in over the summer, checked out books to the students for history fair so they could get a jump start on their projects. I had the teacher email me over the summer. I went ahead and placed orders for the students, so as soon as school came back in session, the students would have these books ready to go for history fair. I work with students in research homework. I do print for students that when they need copies, I go make sure that they have that done. I run overdue notices every 2 weeks. I monitor students before school, during all lunches, and after school. I have elevated privileges to reset those student passwords. All throughout the day, from the time I get there in the morning till the end day, I'm running back and forth, resetting passwords, having them log on before they go back to their classroom to try to log on to their Chromebooks. Sometimes they come right back to me, and it is a daily thing that the students are coming. My media specialist would have to take on then all these other jobs that the media techs do. And it would then, the students would lose because she would be busy doing all these other things and would not be able to help the students. Also fix the enhanced classrooms and have placed the work orders for the teachers when that's needed. I assist with testing, I cover guidance, I cover student services and the front office when they are out. I set up for functions that we have at school, for the Rotary Club luncheons, and also for a lot of guest speakers. I try to find out what their needs are, have that set up prior to the meetings. The high schools, when they come, same thing. I do all that for them to make sure that things are ready for the students so that they're not delayed in getting their information. I assist with guidance. So I do wear many, many hats at our school. I have worked with Ms. Paiva during FCAT and many things. So if our schools lose their media techs, you're taking away from teachers, but most importantly, students. I reached out to a real estate company this year about backpacks for our students. I received 125 backpacks filled with supplies for our students because our students have a lot of needs at our school. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time, but please consider keeping the media techs in the school, please.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. And I'd like to just say thank you to everybody who's come and spoke tonight, and more importantly, to my fellow board members, because we've forwent our own discussion so we can hear what everybody wanted to say. And that really speaks volumes to our character, that we are concerned about our constituents and our employees. So we do have to be out of this room in a few minutes, so if we'll just go on to our comments. I'll let the superintendent go first, and then we'll do board member comments.
No, thank you to the chair, Ms. Kirkus, and the board, and everyone here. As I said earlier, I started this off and said this is not easy. It's not easy at all. And someone said that made the comment of potentially not valuing the work that each of you do. Each of you works so hard every single day in our county. So very hard, and I am greatly appreciative of everything you do, and I'm an advocate for teachers, support staff, and I'm an advocate for a great climate of culture, and I'm an advocate for best practices. I've exemplified that day one since I've been here, along with the 15 months that I carried to share my aspiration to lead the school district. I will tell you that it is my job to provide the best experiences we can for our students, and to really look at every financial possibility of creating and identify curriculi that will allow us to move forward, but at the same time support teachers and students in order to do so in a collective, intentional fashion in every one of our schools. I appreciate everyone taking the courage to come and speak. I know that it's not easy, and we will continue to look and see if there's different potential areas that we can look and find money. Ms. Paiva, was the one tonight that really founded solutions about what we can do financially. And I get it. I've committed to making certain that everyone is placed in 17, 18 in areas that they're certified to do. But we've got to find other areas of revenue in order to take a place. I will say this, Clay County is in a good stance. They're doing great work, hard work, but Clay County has the opportunity to be great. And it will take everyone in this room, the community, the board, myself, my team, administrators, community members, caregivers, and students, in order to move forward to improve every dimension and facet of this organization, but do it in a balanced manner and not do it in an isolated manner. So while we have so many resources in our school, we've got to figure out, where are they greatly needed, and are we overbalanced and compensated in certain areas versus unbalanced in other areas. We speak about custodial staff. No custodial staff are losing their job tonight, but the message is, what are we doing to make certain we move up and create more opportunities to really service our schools in an adequate manner? I can't do that if everything remains the same fiscally, and I can't do it. I can't give raises and supports and interventions if everything remains the same. So I know that we will be at the table talking about 17, 18 raises and moving forward. that can't happen unless we look at different dimensions of this organization. So I will continue to push the board, and the board will continue to push me, and I appreciate you being advocates for your jobs, your roles, for your students, and for your community. Thank you.
Ms. Gilhausen?
I'm so appreciative of you all coming out and sharing your thoughts and concerns and insight. As Mr. Davis said, these matters are not easy to decide on, and I greatly value your input. I've had numerous phone calls and emails, and I'm responding to them as I can. And I just want you all to know how much I appreciate each of you, the work that you do with our students, and the valuable points that you bring to this discussion. I have a lot of concern about trying to save dollars at the expense of the services that we offer our children. So that's something that I will be considering over the next couple of days leading up to our decision on Thursday. So any more insight you have to offer me, I welcome it. Call me, email me. I'd love to hear from each of you.
Thank you. Ms. Bola?
I, too, am looking at the advocacy of our children. And one of the concerns that I have in listening to particularly the media techs, Mr. Davis, if you could give us some information as to what it would cost to keep the media techs in the junior high. I understand in looking at comparisons, too did some comparing with a few of the high schools that I'm familiar with throughout the state to ask about the number of media specialists at each of the high schools. If we're taking away a media specialist, once again, having taught and been in the classroom and been in the media centers, seeing the volume of people that walk through that on a day-to-day basis, we need to have an additional support of some sort for those people as well. And it may not be necessarily a second media specialist, but what the cost of a media technologist would be in each of the high schools as well. It's the comment about when do you get to go to the restroom is serious. I'm sorry, and a comment, done there. Additional comment along the custodial staff lines, not just the custodial staff. We don't even have a list, I don't believe, a strong list of substitutes for our custodians. In addition to, and it sounds silly, it really does sound silly, but using Argyle as an example this year, we added 6th grade back to the school, right? I don't know if they changed the custodial budget. So when you consider that you've got another 100 students who are using the bathrooms and you don't have enough toilet paper to go around, that's a little difficult. Literacy is our base. Our future, however, is technology as well. I'm not certain that I missed a cog here somewhere about the number of students that a school needs to have an additional resource. And it appears that it's 900 students for that additional resource. I don't know that that was a number that we had been using up to this point. For some reason, I was hovering around a 750 number for some reason in my head. I don't know if you have that number handy. But as schools do grow, those resources, I have no idea how they're going to fit some of the kids into an art class, and one art teacher is going to deal with 30 plus elementary children and teaching them art or music this summer, totally. So just those are concerns, those are thoughts that I would like to have some more further discussion than Thursday evening as well. Thank you.
Do you mind if I add something really quick? What you said about the instructional technology instructors, some of our smaller schools are in our more rural districts who don't have necessarily internet access or computer access in their own homes. So I would really be concerned about taking away technology instruction from schools like that I know several of them keep their media centers and whatnot open during the summer to offer those services to students. And I think that we would be doing them a grave disservice to take away technology instruction just because they don't have 900 kids at the school.
Thank you. Ms. Condon?
I appreciate greatly all of you coming out tonight, as well as the phone calls, the emails, the letters. I got a phone call from an employee in tears at 8 o'clock Saturday night because she had found out then that she was losing her position that she had had for 15 years. And it doesn't matter if we're going to have another place for her to go, because she knows that she will, because she has a multi-year contract. It's just a matter of how we treat people. And we talked a lot about culture, and we've talked a lot about culture, and we care about the culture for our employees, and we care about the culture for our kids. And I'll reserve the rest of my comments for Thursday night, but I do really greatly value all of you. I value the way that you found out. If this proposal, this package has you moving schools, has you moving positions. I'm very interested to know how that was communicated to you, if you had any input, if you had any voice, because that's what we're trying to provide to our students, is the ability to have a voice, to sometimes have a voice of dissension, right? That we need to teach our kids in our society today how to respectfully disagree with someone else, but to have a conversation, not just an in-your-face, you're wrong if you don't agree with me. And so I really value that you have given me different perspectives to look at with this package, and certainly we have more time on Thursday night, and we apologize that the room was not available later tonight, but I do appreciate all of you, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, Ms. Studdard.
Well, I was going to brag and say I have answered every single email, but I just checked. I'm behind again. Just as I'll answer these tonight, I promise. I thought I was going to be able to say, well, I answered all mine. Thank you. We have received numerous emails, phone calls, and so forth. In the emails, one thing I noticed is what one person forgot to point out, the next one pointed out. So we were able to gather a lot of information on different positions, learning what is involved in these particular jobs. I'm tickled to death. Music, art, that's my thing. I want to get this back in all the schools. I am thrilled that we're doing that. I am dismayed about the technology, especially with the world the way it is now. And heck, we can learn something today. Next week we're behind. I mean, it's just a never-ending battle to try to keep up. I heard several of you say that you do agree that we need to have a media specialist in every elementary school. I will be very honest with you. I did not realize that we had elementary schools that didn't have a media specialist. I was horrified when Mr. Davis gave us that information. That's unacceptable. We have to do that for the kids. One thing that I want to do, and I don't care if a child is in a school with 400 students or a school with 1,400 students, I want every child to have equal opportunity, equal education, whatever it takes to make it equal. There's not just because someone's in a school of 400 kids, they shouldn't be denied what someone in a large elementary school has. That's, this is public education. This is equal for everybody. And that's where I'm standing. I don't know where we're going to get the money. I know Mr. Davis really and the board wants to get that fund balance up, and we certainly do. I'm sitting here wondering, when we get the administrative allocations, are there going to be some cuts there? Could we save somewhere in there? It'd be nice if we could see the whole package so we could make sure everybody's getting pinched a little bit. Okay, Mr. Davis, I don't see you jumping right in on that one. I have a feeling Thursday night, y'all bring some coffee, because there's going to be a lot of discussion Thursday night, 6 o'clock right here.
All right, thank you. And again, you know, allocations are painful, as we all know, and I know that our superintendent is trying to do the best that, you know, he can with what he's come into. So I know that none of this is intentional, the changes that we see taking place. I also have an issue with the technology, and I volunteered here at Fleming Island High School's Media Center for about 4 years. I know that the media centers are not just checking books in and out, that our media specialists enhance the student and learning environment. They are a great resource to our teachers. They make a difference, and they are going, you know, before school starts, the media center is open. When school ends, the media center is still open. They are there because even in Fleming Island, there's families that maybe don't have access to the internet or have computers at home, and some kids can only get those resources right here at school. So I know how important it is. I know we all know that. And so I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And Mr. Davis, I'd like to thank your staff. I know a lot of hard work went into this. They made many changes. We looked at it at the agenda workshop. We boo-hooed some stuff. Mr. Davis listened to us, and he changed it, and when it was posted, you know, the media texts were put back, and so they have done a lot of work. And I know we're all complaining, and, you know, we're sorry for complaining, but, you know, just deal with it. Anyway, Mr. Sykes, did you have anything you needed to add?
The only thing I have to add is that I have a trial that a judge set Thursday afternoon. I should be here. I may be a little late for the hearing of the school board meeting Thursday evening at 6, but I apologize.
All right, thank you.
Wait, let me say something. What I want to tell y'all, I have a dream. Okay, Mr. Davis, and you'll hear this. We're talking about, you know, tech specialists and art and music and so forth, but I want to tell you something. A few weeks ago, I went to the Douglas Anderson Extravaganza downtown Jacksonville. My granddaughter was in it, and I want you to know something. It set me on fire. One of these days, I hope that we can get us a real performing arts school in Clay County. Let me tell you what, I want it. If y'all ever go to that extravaganza, you will leave there drooling. Just, it is unbelievable what those kids can do. We could start small, but first we got to get everybody in place here and then find some money for a performing arts school. Let's go.
Through the chair, I agree.
Okay, good.
Yes. All right, with that and Mrs. Studdard's dream, meeting is adjourned.